I'm in the process of retiring, diagnosed with PTSD, and retiring hopefully soon. And I'll be retiring a year early than I was planning originally. So instead of 30 years in law enforcement, it'll be 29, but I'm like, that's good enough. When I was 14 or 15, no, I was 14, my grandfather, who I was very close with on my mom's side, Grandpa Hillman, was killed by an impaired driver. And that was a life-changing moment for me because of how close we were. Like, he was someone I really looked up to. And I just wanted to be the guy that, can stop that, or, catch the people who do it and that sort of thing. I wanted to be a police officer, and I knew that at a young age. So I knew I wanted to go into college for that. So straight out of high school, I got into the criminal justice program at the Lethbridge Community College. And so I went there for 2 years of education, and that. And then after that, all of my friends had moved to Edmonton. So when I graduated college, I moved to Edmonton. I was in the first week of moving to Edmonton, and it was actually a guy my dad works with. His brother had started a private security company in Edmonton. So I made a phone call to him, and then I got hired on with them, where I did security at the Royal Alex Hospital. Well, when I first got hired, I actually reacted probably like I got drafted into the NHL or a professional sports team, something like that, because it had been my goal since I was like 14, right? And I was 24 at the time, and married with a pregnant wife with a baby on the way. I just remember at the beginning, I was so excited to be there. But at the same time, I had a lot of fun in training. I made a lot of good friends and a lot of good memories. Whereas every day, you go to work, you have some pressure on you to get some traffic tickets. I hated writing tickets. There are times where you see someone driving like an asshole and they're putting people in danger. They're gonna get what they get, right? And then pulled over like a 98-year-old grandma who just cussed at me and swore me out for pulling her over. And when I served her the ticket, she was like, "Thanks for nothing, cocksucker." That sort of stuff. So, and I was just like, this is someone's grandma. Like, there's times like with the 98-year-old lady, I laughed about that. There's times where you can tell it's obvious mental health and that sort of thing. But then there's other times where it's just people who are so entitled. There were times at the end of my career, though, where I found, dealing with what we call Karens nowadays.
Yeah.
And I don't like to say that even because I have an aunt named Karen. But those calls afterwards, I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's very frustrating. It's actually one of the reasons that I think led me towards leaving the career of policing, because I did it, and the majority of people, almost all the people I've worked with, joined up for the right reasons, right? And that, like, I've only known maybe 4 or 5 cops that I'd say were bad, but I actually got them all fired. And like, even myself, through my career, I would read books, and I would have my recruits that I was training read books on emotional maturity in policing and that sort of stuff. I was in policing for close to 30 years, and I never had a formal complaint made against me, just because I always still dealt with them with respect. When I was young, it really created almost like an us versus them mentality, where like, okay, we're the good guys and they're the bad guys. And as I got older, I actually came to a realization that the people that I dealt with the most were actually, like, the people that I arrested the most, the people that were in cells the most, were actually the victims, were actually the true victims of society. They're the ones that are disregarded, forgotten about, just like, we don't want you in our community, you go over here. Everything gets dumped on the police. Oh, it's the police's fault and that sort of stuff. But because a lot of times, have police made mistakes and done the wrong thing? Absolutely they have. But There's also times though where police are now being relied upon to go and deal with things that they're not trained for, that they're not doctors, they're not experts in mental health, you know, they haven't gotten a years of education into those types of fields, but there's not the resources in society to deal with it, and the police are the last line. So when everyone else passes the buck and say we can't do it, it falls in the police's lap. And I've seen it over the course of my career where when I first started, it was just police work. We just, we wrote some tickets, you went to calls, you investigated, arrested bad guys, domestic violence, that sort of stuff. But as it went on, it's almost in a way like a deterioration of society. Yeah, it became basically that's all we were going to was mental health calls. And, the people who were wanting the help, the people who were calling didn't want us there. We didn't want to be there. And that there were times though where we had to be there. There's lots of times you show up and the guy's completely naked, jumping on a car, covered in blood, his own feces, and he's gonna kill somebody. And the only ones in society that are trained to deal with that aspect of it are police. Because we do get training. It's just our training though is a course, right? It's an afternoon or a week at tops type thing on this. So we're not the actual experts. So yeah, we do get put in situations where you're relied on to solve it when you don't have the training. But it's also the same for like when I started out as a young 25-year-old cop, going to domestics between couples that have been married for 50 years. I don't have their life experience. I don't have that sort of stuff, but yet I was relied on to deal with those situations. And as far as resources, I dealt with Homewood, which I called and got some resources there. I was in a treatment program with them, and then also through WCB as well, and still in treatment. But I'm doing much better. I'm looking forward to retirement. I'm looking forward to not having a job with so much stress, dealing with such difficult people. Like I said, there's so many times you're just having a bad day, or even I've been having nightmares or dreams and that sort of stuff, but then through role playing, it makes it go away. Tonight I'm GMing Octon Cthulhu for a bunch of my friends, and it's World War II Nazis that are trying to raise Cthulhu to control the world, and the players play as two-fisted action heroes trying to stop them. Kind of like an Indiana Jones movie or, Hellboy, something like that. No, none of us wanted to fight. Fighting sucks, it hurts.